The project, it is your life. Think about that for just one moment. Most people think project management is something they do at work, a schedule, a budget, a status report, a stakeholder meeting. But here's where I've come to understand the biggest project I've ever managed wasn't a software implementation, it wasn't the PMO, it wasn't a digital transformation, it was my life. And just like every project, life has a way of punching you in the mouth, not once, not twice, just over and over and over again. And when this happens, here's what they never teach you. See, the project is your life is you when I ask you to really think about how that looks, we have to come to understand that the things in life that you look at just from a project standpoint, it just has a way of sometimes just looking at you. For example, sometimes it looks like a failed project. Sometimes it looks like a leadership team that won't listen. Sometimes it even looks like you're doing the work, solving the problems, creating the value, and watching someone else act like it never happened. I remember walking into this environment where a critical project had just completely stalled. Emails sent, people waiting, nothing moving. I asked just one pivotal question: why hasn't this started? The answer, well, I emailed them. I'm just waiting for a response. How long? Oh, probably about a week. A week. See, while everyone's just still acting like the project was going to move itself, I said, hey, just copy me on that email correspondent. Then I scheduled a meeting. The project started right away. No magic, no complicated framework, no revolution methodology, just movement. That project moved because somebody decided to move. And I'll be honest with you, family, that moment has repeated itself throughout my entire career. Not because I'm special, but because I've spent a lot of time in rooms where people confuse activity with progress. And you know what's difficult? It's difficult when you have to have those difficult conversations that continue to get avoided, where problems wait for permission to be solved, and where the part I had to grow through my life, where I spent years believing that results would eventually speak for themselves, that if I solved enough problems, worked hard enough, and created enough value, somebody, and I do mean somebody, would eventually notice. Sometimes they did. A lot of times they didn't. Sometimes they didn't even look to appreciate or recognize. The project moved and everyone moved on. For a long time, that bothered me. Not to play victim here, family, to play victor, because if you ever been the person carrying the weight, creating the momentum, solving the problems, and receiving criticism instead of credit, that silence feels like. But eventually the lesson landed. It was never about the applause. It was about the commitment. The people who made it through difficult seasons are not always the smartest, not always the strongest, not always the most talented. They are the ones willing to take the next step when nobody, and I do mean nobody, is clapping for them. And that's when my perspective shifts. The scars I carry are not wounds. They are proof that I survived what was supposed to stop me. Every disappointment, every setback, every season where I felt totally invisible, every moment I questioned whether any of this was really worth it, that scar existed because healing happened. And healing doesn't happen by accident. Healing happens because you keep moving. That's why this episode today matters more than any episode I've ever created, because life will punch you in the mouth. That part is guaranteed, no money back. The only question that has ever mattered is, what are you going to do next? Principle number one: scars are not wounds. They are proof that you survived what was supposed to stop you. See, a wound is still open. A scar is evidence that healing took place. Every scar tells two stories. Something hurt you and you survived it. Many people focus so much time on what happened that they forgot the most critical part. And the critical part here, family, is you survived. The critical part is that you kept moving forward. The critical part is that you made a decision, not a choice, that you were going to make, that you were going to survive this one. Why is this important? Your perspective changes when you stop seeing scars as damage and start seeing them as proof of resilience. Here's two actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. Write down 3 situations you thought you would never recover from, but you did. Next one: stop introducing yourself through your pain and start introducing yourself through what you learn while healing. Here's my professional advice, family. Your scars are actually credentials. They prove you gain experience that no book, certification, or training course can actually teach you. But surviving something doesn't automatically move your life forward. Healing has to turn into momentum. Principle number 2, the people who make it through are not tougher. They're just more committed to the next step. Oh, I like that, family. We often assume successful people are mentally tougher, but most people who make it through difficult seasons, they're not stronger. They're simply more committed to taking the next step. Again, and I'll park here parenthetically to say this, family. You see, I did not say they are simply more interested in taking the next step. Because as you know, if you paid attention to me long enough, if you listened to me long enough, you know the difference between interest and commitment. Interest is saying that, oh, maybe I'll do it and maybe I won't. But commitment is we don't have no other options. This has to work. As Neil would say, this has to work or it has to work because it has to work. Meaning that you make a commitment to take that next step, not next year, just the next step. Why is this important? People wait for confidence. They wait for certainty. They wait for motivation. Meanwhile, in between times, progress belongs to those who's willing to move before they really feel ready. Here's 2 actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. Stop asking, how do I fix everything? And ask, what's the next step? What is the next step? Next one, create a daily movement goal instead of an outcome goal. Here's my professional advice. The next step is often more valuable than the perfect plan. You don't need to see the whole path. You only need to see enough that's visible for you to take the next step. Because eventually you survive, you heal, you keep moving. But society tells you every setback must become a comeback. I don't believe that's true in all cases. Principle number 3, not every setback requires a comeback story. We live in a culture obsessed with dramatic comebacks, but sometimes the greatest achievement isn't building something bigger. Sometimes it's simply surviving the season. Healing itself is already an accomplishment. I will say that again, family, for someone out there that is going through something. Healing itself is already an accomplishment. Why is this important? People add unnecessary pressure to difficult situations. They feel obligated to turn every hardship into something extraordinary. Here's 2 actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. Measure recovery by progress, not by how impressive it looks to others. Next one, give yourself permission to be in a rebuilding season. Here's my professional advice. One of the most underrated forms of strength is quiet persistence. Basically, having the ability to keep showing up when nobody is clapping, having the ability to show up when you don't even feel like showing up, having the ability to keep moving one foot in front of the other, even though you feel like sitting down, you feel like giving up, you feel like, as they would say, throwing in the towel. Many people celebrate the comeback. Very few appreciate the courage required to survive the setback. Before we close, family, I want you to think about something. What scar are you still looking at as a wound? Not the thing that happened to you, the thing you survived, the project that failed, the opportunity that disappeared, the person who walked away, the season that, the numbers weren't adding up. They weren't mathing. Math wasn't math. And you just want to know what this doesn't make sense. See that setback you still think about from time to time? What if that scar isn't proof of what you lost? What if it was proof of what you survived? And maybe, and just maybe, even a harder question, where in your life are you waiting when you should be moving? You remember that story. See, the project didn't move because somebody created a perfect plan. The project moved because somebody decided to move. Maybe the next step isn't as big as you think it is. Maybe it's one phone call, one application, one conversation, one chapter, one workout. Just make one decision. The people who make it through it aren't always the strongest. They're the ones who keep taking the next step. And maybe that's exactly what this season is asking from you. See, I originally learned this thought from Mike Tyson when he said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And if you live long enough, life will punch you in the mouth. Plans will change. People will disappoint you. And some seasons will test. And I mean, test you more than you ever expected. But your scars are proof that you survived before. The next step is the proof that you're willing to still continue to move forward. And sometimes that's more than enough. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, keep growing, and remember the project is your life. Manage it and lead it accordingly. If you're new to this episode, I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, hey, that just simply means Ed. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it today, family. Until next time.